Once you cut out certain foods out of your diet and then you go back eating those foods, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's gluten, whether it's cooked, whether it's whatever, you're going to have an issue because of the enzymes. You need enzymes. You create more enzymes based on what you eat. You're going to have more enzymes to digest cooked food. If you're eating it, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's poison. Just because you feel a little bit better or because you happen to have issues, going back to raw doesn't fucking mean shit. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily healthier. It doesn't mean that, you're addicted to it. None of that proves anything. Hey fruit faces, it's Clary here, and I just happened to be scrolling along Facebook and saw a post by Happy Healthy Vegan. I had actually previously unsubscribed to Nikocado Avocado. I followed them for a while, and then I unsubscribed because I felt like there was a little bit of raw food elitism going on. And not only that, but there was some issues with, not necessarily with them actually, but through their posts, the people who supported them. I felt like there was some high fat sort of shame, like low fat shaming, like they were so high fat that people started actually shaming the low fat people. So I had at some point clicked unsubscribe, and I have resubscribed to their channel today after seeing a video called Are Vegans Drug Addicts? I love this video. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. I'm the 200th person to like it just now. There were some really good points in this video. I just have so much to say because honestly, being here in the middle, of America, we're in the middle of the Bible Belt, we're in the middle of the beef belt, basically, and people are really anti-vegan here, especially raw vegan. 10 years ago, I remember I tried vegetarian for about 6 months, and I, of course, I wasn't as educated back then, and so it didn't last. But I came across a lot of, people just saying, oh, vegetarian's okay, just don't go vegan. Definitely don't go raw vegan. That's really bad for your health, yada, yada, yada. And so there's this whole perpetuation of stereotypes, even though, they're basing their evidence off of... The cat just knocked over some Christmas boxes. Anyway, a lot of stereotypes going along, and I fell right into that. I was like, oh, I would never go raw vegan. They're just frail and pale. And even though I don't know one and I've never met one in my entire life, I know that I don't want to go there, right? So here I am, 2016, 10 or more years later, and I don't even want to say pretty much a raw vegan. On a regular day at this point in time, I'm starting to eat almost like 99% raw, 98, 95, I don't know, 90, I don't know. I haven't sat down and figured out the percentages. I eat beans still because I like to make a good dressing out of some beans or maybe some PB2, some organic PB2. But the bulk of my diet is at this point raw. On a regular basis, and I'm just getting to that point, getting to that mindset, getting to where that feels the best for me. But of course, like on Christmas and, even on weekends, I'm doing routinely raw. So even on weekends, I may splurge a little bit more. Basically, I'm more raw than I've ever been, and I'm more a believer in raw than I have ever been, okay? But again, I've said this before and I'll say it again, I will probably never ever go fully raw. And even nowadays, you watch Christina's videos from Fully Raw. She's saying you don't have to be fully raw. You shouldn't even, don't worry about fully raw. Even though that's her name. So we're still having, these issues between raw vegans and cooked vegans arguing with each other this day and age. Apparently Ted Carr and Nikocado Avocado, I said it right, good for me, are having this argument at this point. And, I don't know that much about it. I'm not going to sit here and talk smack on Ted Carr, but what I can talk against is people who have that mentality. I've always been against that mentality. That mentality is probably more what kept me from going vegan in the first place. Like I said, here I am in the Midwest hearing all this junk about vegans and especially raw vegans. And I didn't even, like I said, I didn't have any experience with it. I was just trying to go vegetarian for whatever, I don't even remember, for whatever reason at that point. I was a very young mom, couldn't have been, more than early 20s. And it wasn't until, another 10 years later, I happened to stumble upon Durian Rider first because I went vegetarian. People were talking smack on my vegetarianism, so I had to research it a little bit more to learn about it, and I they actually sent me a Weston A. Price link to the vegetarian tour saying how bad it was, and so I did a search for Weston A. Price. I was looking, I was like, there has to be people debunking Weston A. Price. And one of the only people that I saw debunking Weston A. Price was, dun dun dun, guess who it is? Durian Rider. Yes. He was the only person that I found, like, on the whole entire internet talking smack on the Weston A. Price Foundation. That's huge coming from this area, because not only was my friend telling me on this side, Weston A. Price, blah, 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 and I think a lot of people don't get this. When people go off in their remote island little areas, they don't get the real deal that people have to actually deal with, if you want to change the masses, you have to understand the masses. It says in the Bible to fight evil, you have to know evil. You can't necessarily just go off and pretend Neverland and live your life and pretend like people are going to flock to you and you're going to change the world. You have to meet people where they are. Jesus was in there with the prostitutes and with, evil people. He wasn't afraid to go and touch the lepers and all this stuff. It's the same idea. You can't go off and be an elitist and expect to change the world. You may change a few people, but in reality, the people that need to change are the people in everyday life that are stuck in their own ways. And honestly, when I found those Weston A. Price videos, I was like, okay, this is interesting. And actually, that was the precise time that Durian Rider and Freely were having this issue with the Woodstock Fruit Festival. Only due to them being more open to cooked foods was I able to even go vegan. I maybe I would have gone vegan eventually, learning more, yada, yada, yada. It would have taken me a long time. I guarantee you, I would never be as raw as I am if it weren't for Durian and Freely. They brought me to the light. And now, after 2 years, I'm getting more and more and more and more raw. But the raw dogma didn't fucking get me there. And it will never get people there. And it turns people off from veganism as a whole. That's what I love about Emily from Bite Size Vegan. She gets it. She gets that veganism is the most important thing. You can't just expect to turn the whole world vegan by saying, let's all go raw vegan. Fruit is great. People are like, fruit? What the fuck? I'm not going to eat fruit all day. Like, really? Here's the bottom line. There are, this is the one thing that I actually wanted to say in this video. There are so many fucking things that you should be attacking in this world. Find something that actually has a clear benefit. You could talk about fluoridated water. You could talk about, again, like eating meat in general. I'm sure there's plenty of people that that haven't become vegans that you could still point out the evils of meat, dairy, eggs, any of it. Spend your time focusing on something that's proven. Yes, we all know that there's little byproducts of cooked food. There's byproducts of all food. Digestion and assimilation that there's a negative to every positive. It's the duality of the universe, okay? You could talk about electromagnetic radiation. You could talk about Facebook addictions. You could talk about so many different types of addictions. You could talk about alcohol. I'm not saying none of these people do talk about any of these things, but to make raw food this dogma that you have to, go by, and to make that your number one issue is just certifiably insane when there are so many fucked up things in this world, and the majority of people need to come from where they are to literally, what is the stat? There's a stat, if everybody gave up one fucking chicken meal a day, like, so like I said, if all Americans gave up one chicken meal a day, there would be huge more advantages for the universe, for the world, than if, a handful of people decided to go raw from cooked foods vegan. Like, there's hardly any advantage for the whole entire world at that point. They may be a tiny bit healthier. But when you look at Freelee and Durian, I mean, they have better bodies and have better fitness than anybody else. So really, it's not even fucking proven. And that's the whole frustrating point, is that there is really no fucking proof. None of these vegan doctors are saying you have to be raw, except for Doug Graham, who accidentally tries to kill people on fasts. I mean, wake the fuck up. The raw vegan dogma is old news. It's not worth holding on to. Take a look at Christina, learn from people in the past, and realize that it doesn't fucking matter. Focus on something that matters. Focus on something that's going to change people's life, because honestly, even if you change 1,000 people from cooked raw to fully raw, what's the fucking difference? Really, you're going to save a few tiny little toxins, but you're not even worried about those people's alcohol, or if they're smoking pot, or if they live next to power lines, or if they're sleeping next to their cell phones. I mean, wake the fuck up, like, the real issues are not raw vegan versus cooked vegan. We need to focus our issues on the shit that matters. And so again, wasting your time on this bullshit that is really completely unfucking proven. Again, leave me your comments below if you disagree. Thumbs up if you agree. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to eat your fruit. Much love to you all. And I will talk to you soon.